It's an important recruiting cycle for the LSU Tigers in 2024, and they have a talented recruiting board. I'm bringing on LSU insider Shea Dixon of the Bengal Tiger to talk about the Tigers' top targets in this recruiting cycle. The most important, so let's start at the top. 5-star edge Colin Simmons out of Duncanville, Texas, number 7 overall, and the number 1 edge on the On3 consensus. How important is Colin Simmons to the Tigers this cycle?
Josh, you stole the headline. That is the way to sum up why Colin Simmons is such a big target for LSU. A 5-star, a number 1 edge rusher in the SEC. The offensive line and the defensive line are obvious premium positions. And you look at what Colin Simmons is able to do, just glancing over his On3 profile, number 2 player in Texas, one of the most coveted prospects across the board when it comes to Texas, OU, Georgia, Bama, LSU. He's got everybody on the offer list. But right now, before he kicks into this spring wave of official visits or unofficial visits or however he handles it, LSU's sitting with a commanding lead in the RPM on 3. Josh, does that mean they're getting him? No. But it does mean that he's paid very good attention to LSU over the past year. 4 visits to campus, I believe it is. That'd be more than any other school. So the Tigers enter phase 2 of his recruitment, kind of as we officially turn to the 2024 cycle, as the team to beat.
Yeah, hey, keep getting them on campus. Good things will happen. Let's move on to 4-star linebacker Tylen Singleton. He's an in-state prospect at a position of need for the Tigers. Why is he so important to this class?
I think you summed it up well there, Josh. Position of need and one of the best players in Louisiana. And here's the reality of what Brian Kelly's working with. Louisiana, Georgia, California, Texas, Florida. These are the 5 states that often every year are producing per capita the most talent, whether it's NFL, whether it's the On3 top 100 or top 300. It's a state that's rich with talent. And unlike down at the Big 3 roll-up, Josh, you don't have to fight anybody for this. It's just LSU here. Tulane isn't taking all your best players. UL's not taking all your best players. So Tylen Singleton is a guy ranked by the consensus as the top player in Louisiana. A lot of people feel like after LSU missed on 2 linebackers in state a year ago, Tackett Curtis left the state, Jaden Osbury left the state, Tylen Singleton is now up as that guy to get a need position, someone that could play early at LSU. They are all over him as one of their top in-state targets for sure.
All right. Well, he'll be an important one to keep in state. And no, I don't think the Tulanes or the ULLs of the world are the ones to watch. It's more like Alabama, Texas, Texas A&M, the big hitters. Before we move on down the list, I need you guys to do me a favor, though. Subscribe to the On3 YouTube page. We are your place for the latest recruiting developments. JD Piquel's also on the channel doing a ton of college football content. Hit that subscribe button for me. All right. Moving on to 4-star corner Wardell Mack, number 149 overall. He's the 13th ranked corner in the On3 consensus rankings. Shea, what's the latest on his recruitment to LSU?
Louisiana is always going to give you defensive backs, especially at corner. Wide receiver and corner, they can churn out athletes every year, and Wardell Mack is that next guy up. When you are the highest ranked cornerback in Louisiana, you're being coveted by everyone, and that's the case for Wardell Mack. Now, he's been to LSU plenty of times. They hold a pretty good lead on the On3 RPM going into the offseason, and he's a kid who plays his high school football at John Ehret, which is a school traditionally LSU recruits very well in the New Orleans area. So as we move down this list of top prospects, I think you really hone in on Wardell Mack as a guy who, could he get in the boat this offseason with LSU? Could he shut things down before his senior year? People feel like after they start to drop a couple of dominoes in Louisiana, the rest start to fall. I think we've got Wardell Mack on that list as potentially one of the next guys who can end up shutting down his recruitment.
Yeah, you got to typically when LSU stacks those classes, that foundation is set from the best players in the state. All right, let's leave the state once again. 4-star safety, Ka'Davion Dotson-Walker, another standout prospect from Duncanville High School there in Texas. Number 160 overall, the 13th ranked safety on the On3 consensus. What's the latest with his recruitment to LSU?
Yeah, look, we're right back at Duncanville High, where Colin Simmons, 5-star edge rusher, is obviously a top player on defense. LSU doesn't have a pipeline at Duncanville. It's a school out in the Dallas area that often OU recruits well, Texas can recruit well, but LSU has made it an emphasis in the past couple of cycles to really spend a lot of time there with Brian Kelly and company taking over. We've seen them circle a guy at the very top like Colin Simmons, but Dotson-Walker's not far behind. Much like with Simmons, LSU holds the lead on the on-3 RPM. That's a sort of theme we've got going here of LSU being, quote-unquote, the team to beat. But they've done really well to prioritize him early, Josh. They haven't handed out a ton of safety offers. They gave him one. They let him know pretty much, hey, you're on top of our wish list. He's got visits set up for the spring. And this is one, too, where they're recruiting the team's running back, Caden Durham. So LSU will have a bunch of Duncanville kids on campus over this recruiting cycle. Can they get any of them? That's going to be the big question.
Yes, can they? And hey, you land Colin Simmons and maybe the rest just follow it. That's the easy route to take. Moving to the state of Florida, four-star offensive tackle Jonathan Daniels ranks number 155 overall in the On3 consensus, but Charles Power, director of scouting and rankings here at On3, loves him. Jonathan Daniels is a top 50 prospect at On3. So, Shea, the question is, can LSU pull him out of Florida knowing the competition that's waiting?
I think LSU offensive line coach Brad Davis is going to side with Charles and On3 on this one. From talking to people, LSU has him high atop the board in terms of offensive tackles. And they went out of state and got two kids in Georgia a year ago, including DJ Chester, which was a really big pickup out of the Peach State. Then they lock up the two best offensive linemen in Louisiana, including Zaylon's Hurd, who was a five-star, finished as one of the top 15 prospects in the country on three. That was a great recruiting class. What can you do to follow it up? And I think that they've obviously early on circled a guy like Jonathan Daniels out of the Pensacola area as someone that they've offered, they've locked in a visit for. He's expressed pretty serious interest. And when we caught up with him recently, he said he was talking during the open contact periods, obviously, to LSU almost every day. So when you have that kind of contact with a junior in high school, it's clear they're a priority to you. And LSU is showing that, hey, look, we can go outside the state of Louisiana, go back into our normal recruiting territories, whether it's Florida, the Gulf Coast, East Texas. That's the theme, obviously, with all these guys. It's guys that they have a footprint in that recruiting territory. They've been able to get in on them early, and I think that's one that we are going to continue to watch closely because I think Charles and On3 are right about this one, and I think he's only going to continue to blow up with big-time offers. Jonathan Daniels, FSU, Auburn, Georgia, everyone's fighting for him right now. It's going to be a really interesting offseason to watch which way that one goes.
Yeah, I fully expect the rest of the industry to follow along with On3. I think we're just a little ahead on this one. Shea, thanks for all the intel on the individual targets, but what is the biggest, from a more general perspective, what is the biggest position of need this cycle for Brian Kelly and LSU?
I think you always start with O-line, D-line, no matter how you did in any other class, just because that's one where you're playing a lot of guys, you have natural attrition there, and you can win there. So beyond that, linebacker, they just don't have many, Josh. They're at 6 scholarship linebackers for the 23 season. We'll see if they take any transfers. Even then, they had to take a transfer to get there to 6. And Omar Spates, he's just a one-year guy coming out of Oregon State. Yes, Harold Perkins is great. Yes, they've got Greg Penn back. Yes, they signed some really tremendous guys, including Whit Weeks, who was one of the biggest risers in the country. But that's not enough scholarship guys to move forward with. So for me, early on, I'm circling the linebacker as a position that we've.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. And remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.